knew it. Is it videoing now?
What's up, you guys? Yes, it is. Oh God, what am I doing? Hi, Internet. As you can see, I'm dressed up like Luna Lovegood from the Harry Potter franchise because, in less than an hour, Mary Fesmeyer, who's dressed like gay Dumbledore, just so we're clear. Don't know if you can see that, the lighting was a little awkward, but is dressed like gay Dumbledore because we're gonna go see the last Harry Potter movie ever, unless they make like a prequel, which I really hope they don't, because then they'd be just making shit up. So, to celebrate, I'm going to walk you through in less than 10 minutes, less than 5 minutes, let's go with less than 5 minutes, I was timing now, the entire Harry Potter plot from beginning to end. Cliffhanging for this movie we're about to go see, because I don't remember it very well. Alright. In book 1, Harry is an orphan because his parents got killed by an evil wizard whose name no one likes to say, and we know this because the old guy told the cat that. Then he's living with his slightly psychologically abusive family, but then a giant comes and is like, "What up, I'm a giant." But then we realize later he's just a half giant, and he's like, "Yo, a wizard, Harry." And then his life is better, and he eats lots of cake, which I think is actually true, I wasn't just making that up. Then he goes to the wizarding world, and it's all really quirky and lots of wizards, and he gets a wand, and the wand shows him. And he gets all of his school things because he's going to the wizarding school, and he gets an owl, and he's really excited because he's a wizard now, and it's a whole life change, but there's lots of rules, and it's a whole society. And then he goes to Hogwarts, and lots of school things ensue. And then after lots of shenanigans and making new friends, and it's all very complicated, and you're 11, Harry Potter, so it's all lots of fun, and you don't realize he's 11 until later when you look back, and you're like, whoa, he was 11. And then he gets in a fight with that evil guy that killed his parents, who we learn is named Voldemort, that we're not supposed to say. But then everything turns out right in the end, and then he goes back to his abusive family's house. And then, later, he goes back to Hogwarts for his second year, when he's 12. But the thing about this year is that something evil's happening, and a giant snake is killing all the people that have Muggle parents. But not really killing, just petrifying, because, hey, this is a kid's book. And you'd think that if people were dying, the school's gonna get sued, but I guess law doesn't really work in this wizarding thing. And it gets a little bit more complicated, but so far the plot is still pretty stick with one book, and then one book, and then one book. Not too complicated, right? So he gets to defeat this giant snake because, as we've learned from the first book, it always ends with him defeating something. And he meets his cute little Ginger, and all that happens, and she gets a crush on him, and then everyone's excited, and they eat a big feast, as always happens at the end of these books. And then he goes back to his abusive family's house. Now, things get a little bit more complicated in the third book. He gets another aunt that's really mean, and she blows up like a balloon, and then there's this giant dog that's chasing him, and he gets really freaked out about it because, as we learn, it's going to kind of keep going in the plot somehow. Then, when he gets to school, we learn that there's a whole big lawmaking thing in Hogwarts in the wizarding world, and they actually have a ministry, which is like their government sort of deal. And they have a prison, and there are these weird ghosty monster things that run the prison that are also at Hogwarts to help them from an escaped convict. But the things that are guarding them are actually probably more dangerous than the convict. And then, voila, it turns out the convict's related to Harry and is actually pretty cool. And then Harry learns lots of magic, and we learn that he's actually probably the coolest wizard in the world, which we kind of figured out because the books are named after him. And then it turns out that his uncle, godfather, whatever, Sirius Black, as is the convict's name, turns out to be pretty cool, and we like him. Then in the next book there's a big tournament, and Harry Potter wins the tournament. Yeah, he wins the tournament, because that's what Harry Potter does. He's a winner. But then the Dark Lord, which killed his parents and he defeated a couple times in the other books, comes back, and then he's like, he's back. And then in the fifth book is when everything starts getting crazy, because he's back, and Voldemort, Dark Lord, is back, and no one believes Harry Potter. And then it turns out there's this secret organization to try to defeat the Dark Lord that Dumbledore's a part of. And then Harry Potter hits puberty in this fifth book, and he wants to hit on girls, and he's really angsty. And then Sirius, who's his godfather, who he gets really close to, dies. And Harry's like, WTF, man, the one person I cared about. And then he's like destroying shit, and everyone's really pissed off. And then him and Dumbledore have a heart-to-heart, which I forgot to mention, they do in every book. And so him have a heart-to-heart, but Harry's pretty angsty throughout this entire book, and it's about 600 pages longer than it should be, and it's about twice as long as any of the other books. And then all the Harry Potter fans are slightly excited, but then when they read it, they slowly realize that's not cool. Then in the sixth book, they hit puberty to the next level where they get hormones and they start wanting to have sex with each other. So in the sixth book, they're all making out with one another, and it gets a little bit convoluted because there's not as much of a plot. And then he and Dumbledore go on lots of shenanigans and adventures, and it ends with these dead things trying to attack him, and you're like, this is getting a little bit out of the childhood range. I mean, all the making out and allusions to sex were bad enough, but now there are dead things attacking Dumbledore. Oh, then Dumbledore dies, and everyone's like, oh, look, we've learned that if we ever try to get close to an adult figure that we really care about, they're probably going to die. But Dumbledore was old anyway, so we weren't too upset. And then, in the 7th book, Harry Potter's like, I'm dropping out of school, and that taught us that if you're a hero, you drop out of school. And he lives in the camper with his friends for a while, and then they had to go on this weird scavenger hunt for pieces of Voldemort's soul, which I forgot to mention was kind of a thing in the 6th book. And lots of shenanigans happened in the camper, and then they just actually go out and try to do things with their lives, but it gets really complicated because the Dark Lords begin to take over. It's a little bit like communism at this point. And then this movie ends with part 1, and we're about to go see part 2. Remember, this ends with them kind of looking pretty bleak because the house elf that was in the 2nd book and the 6th book and the 5th book came and tried to help them, as he often did, because he was a pretty cool part. I should have mentioned him earlier. He came, but then he died after saving them, and so it ends with them kind of like at his grave looking really depressed. So then everyone's like, is this next movie going to be really depressing? The answer, probably. But we're excited. So that was 90% of the Harry Potter franchise in a 6-minute rant. Thank you, and can't wait to see the next one.